Welcome everyone to another IAPC&M MasterClass. I'm your MasterClass host, Elena Nedeva, based in Bulgaria. It's lovely to see all of you here. Please note that this session is recorded and live streamed. So please keep yourselves on mute to help us ensure the quality of the recording. If you would like to switch your cameras on to make this masterclass even more interactive, that will be lovely. And now, actually, without further ado, I'm going to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Barbara Mutedzi. I hope I'm pronouncing this correct, Barbara.
Perfect.
And so for those of you that haven't come across Barbara's work, for the past 2.5 decades, she has been working with high-performing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs who have felt tired, lost, dejected, used, and abused. All of these people have worked in soul-crushing jobs, suppressing their emotions, going round and round in circles, and against their own true values, principles, and purpose. So Barbara has been working with these professionals to help them ignite their inner spark and to guide them how they can show up more authentically in their lives. Barbara, we look forward to hearing your presentation. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Elena. I'm so very excited to see all of you here and a bit nervous because I really want to make sure that you've got a lot of takeaways. So I'm being hard on myself. I'm very aware of that. That's just who I am. I just want to make sure that you get as much out of this as possible. So I'm just going to put my slides up. Just give me a second and I'll put those up so we can start. So presenter view. There we go. Elena, confirm with me that you can see my screen and my slides.
Visible.
Perfect. So I'm Dr. Barbara Mutedzi. I'm a deeply self-aware and conscious leader. I'm trained as a neuroscience-based coach. Excited to have you here. So I use what is called the OPA system for any meeting, for any workshop, for any gathering, so that we are clear why we're here. I stole this OPA system from Anthony Robbins, if you guys know him. So OPA stands for Outcome, Purpose, Action. So the outcome of the reason why we're here is we want to help you to start the process of unleashing your irresistible edge, architecting your business on solid ground and creating a flow state to fortune. So just put a thumbs up in the chats if you're in the right room, because this is why you are here, so that we can make sure that we're all in the same space. Awesome. The purpose of this is just to help you understand the importance of creating a system and a process that is in tune to who you are. There's literally no one else in the world. There are 8.2 billion people as of yesterday, the 1st of April, and there's only one you. So we want to start creating a system and a process that is in tune to who you are. There's so many people out there in the world who are waiting to be coached and mentored and taught by you. And so if you're running out of steam because we're using systems and processes that are not aligned to who we are, then we are giving disservice to our own selves and also to the people that are out there. So that's one of the reasons that we're here today. I would ask that for the next 45 minutes, I've got 20 odd presentation slides. I'll just share as much information as I can, jot down any questions that might come up because we're going to have a Q&A in the last 15 minutes. And anything that resonates with you as well, please write it down. As you know, I know the most or majority of people here are coaches on this platform, and you know the power of writing things down. There's one part of listening, there's one part of talking, but writing it down actually uses both your left and your right side of the brain, which means you remember a lot of the things. So if there's anything that resonates with where you are today, I would encourage you to write it down. And if there's anything that resonates at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share with you a 3-day paid webinar series, information around that you can sign up for so we can go in depth with what we started today. So why is it important for you to unleash your irresistible edge? Your unique personality isn't just a quirk, it's your ultimate competitive advantage. You're able to attract your ideal client like a magnet, and I'll explain what that means. So, yesterday, when I was doing more research on this, as of the 1st of April, 8.2 billion people in the entire world, everyone has a different worldview. They're at a different stage in their life, their leadership, their business, and a different stage in their physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental spaces. So the more we know our own selves as the coaches, the more we can serve even more people. So instead of just niching down on our target market, which is very, very important, we also niche down on our marketing because that opens up the funnel. And I'll explain that as we continue moving forward. Now, in the beginning, I mentioned that I'm really excited about today and a little bit nervous. And my go-to when I'm really excited and nervous is that I speak very fast. So if I'm speaking too fast, just raise your hand or type in the chat, and Elena will just let me know, hey, Barbara, slow down or articulate your words a bit better so we can hear. So just let us know. Right. So one of my coaching mottos is that we can't lead other people beyond where we ourselves are at especially at emotional level. So of the 8.2 billion people who are out there, people are looking for you because of your expertise, your experience, who you have worked with, and everything that you bring to the table. So the more you are in touch with your own self at emotional level, the more people you can actually be of service to because of your own experiences. I had a marketing coach a couple of years ago, and one of the exercises that she asked me to do, which I would encourage you to do as well, is to take out my CV from the time that I started working. So I am turning 45 this year. Is it 45? I think so. And I started coaching probably 2.5 decades ago, and also started working maybe, I think, in my early teenage years. So she got me to write all the jobs that I've been working in, all the industries, and then to list down the skill sets that I brought into that job, as well as the skill sets that I got out of that job, for me to see the array of experience that I've had over the past 2.5 to 3 decades. So, because sometimes we get so focused on just what we are doing right now, and we forget all the skill sets that we've brought from before. And those are really important because we can actually be of service to many more people who are looking to learn from your experience and your qualifications, whether they're through formal education or informal education. So the more you work and understand and appreciate yourself and the qualifications you bring to the table and who you are at emotional level, at physical level, at spiritual level, as well as at mental, intellectual level, it really helps. And I'll speak more about those 4 levels as we go along, just in case you forget them. So, how do we get to understand our own selves, first of all? So what my marketing coach did was, again, take out that CV, really write down what my skill sets are. The next step as coaches is we usually send out personality and aptitude tests to our clients. Those are just the beginning. They are the door opener to who we are, because our personalities are what we've had to become from what we've experienced since we were born, or what we've experienced since we were the ages of 0 to 7. So the Jews have a statement that says, and I'm paraphrasing here, it says something along the lines of, give me a boy before he turns 7 and I'll turn him into a man. The reason being that all our experiences before the age of 7 is everything that we've been exposed to in our homes that we were raised, in the schools that we went to, in our community, in our nations around the world. And that becomes our programming for the rest of our adulthood. So if we're not doing that internal work of understanding our inner child and the way that we were raised and why we're raised that way, we're actually just following programming that the adults around us, whether they were doing it consciously or subconsciously, actually sort of put upon us. It's their programming that we're just following. So personality tests, the personality that you developed within the first 7 years of that exposure is who you are. That's why I say that personality tests are just a door opener to who you are. It's only a part of who you are. So just to share my global vision, I'm wanting to create a movement of deeply self-aware and conscious business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs, because I believe that the more self-aware we all are, the better we are able to create psychologically safe home environments, psychologically safe work environments, psychologically safe nations and communities. So for me, this work of actually doing that internal work, understanding my inner child, understanding my inner critic, understanding my inner ego, all of these allow me to really go down to the base level of saying, okay, I have become this because of my experiences in the first 7 years of my life. I've had to create this inner critic and inner ego. I'll explain that again as we go along. But what is beneath that? Because that is really who I am before I was exposed to the community I was raised in. So again, this is just a reiteration. Our personality tests just reveal a part of you, not all of who you are. So the journey of becoming truly self-aware is really digging down inside. In the coaching world, or especially if you go on LinkedIn, there's a lot of talk around emotional intelligence. Now, you can't go and get emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the result of the work around deep self-awareness. The more self-aware you are, the higher your emotional intelligence. And to be able to become highly and deeply self-aware, you have to do the journey of deep self-inquiry, literally questioning and asking all aspects of you. Why are you who you are today? Why is your hair like that? Why do you stay in the country that you're in? Why do you wear the clothes that you wear? Why do you speak that way? What has contributed to who you are today? Because the more aware you are with all parts of you, the more people you can actually be able to serve, because you've given yourself the time to understand who you are at human level. And so you're able to serve other people human to human, especially in this world where we are moving or have already moved into the AI generation. What never is going to leave is the humanity of all of us. We all love to be connected. And so the more or the deeper connected we are to our own selves, the more we understand and appreciate and care for ourselves, the able we are to actually create room for other people to do the same, because we've gone through that same process. So you've heard me talking about the mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional body. You've heard me talking about the ego, the inner critic, inner child, intuition. Let me expand on that a bit more. So we've got 4 main voices in our head. We've got the inner critic, we've got the inner ego, we've got the inner child, and we've got our intuition. So how and why have they developed, or did they develop? So depending on the first 7 years of your life and what you went through, so I can give you an example from my own life. My biological father died when I was 6. And then because my mother was a single parent and she couldn't look after me, she then sent me to live with my uncle and aunt. And at that stage and in that place, I was abused twice, sexually abused twice. And so I learned as a survival mechanism to keep quiet and to be the good girl and to behave and not to make any noise, because if I do that, then in my little girl brain, I would be abused. So I learned to be a people pleaser. And so with that, I developed an inner critic. Each time that I wanted to be a child and go out and play and have fun and make noise, like any child should, right? My inner critic would say, no, 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 don't do that, because you're going to be abused. You're not going to be loved. And as children, all we want is to be loved. And so that inner critic became me inside of me, who was banging against my inner intuition, my inner child who really wanted to have fun and grow and just be a kid, literally. And my inner ego developed in my teenage years. We all know what happens in teenage years, where we are wanting to now self-identify, remove ourselves from the community so we can understand who we are. I then developed this persona that said, I am a great person. I know what I'm doing. I know who I am. And unfortunately, that inner ego started fighting with my inner critic. So there was internal turmoil inside of me, because my inner critic was saying, hey, I am here to protect you, because that's how I understood it as a child. My inner ego was like, yeah, but I'm not in that environment anymore. I'm growing. I want to explore the world. And actually everything outside is very fun and important. I want to make friends and all of that. And so there was a clash between the two. Now, what was happening inside of me is I became an introvert because the inner turmoil was too much for me. The library was my favorite place. And it spoke to me actually creating a space where the inner critic was quiet and there was no fight for my ego. I went on childhood adventures through reading books. I don't know if you guys know the Enid Blyton classics. I used to like the famous five because they all used to go on adventures, and that for me was amazing. So internally, I could go on adventures, but not get in trouble with my inner intuition, my inner critic. So that's how these voices develop. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. Everyone's journey is different, and I'm not sharing this with you to feel sorry for me. I have done the inner work, and now I'm helping other people figure out who they really are below those voices, because I do believe that we're all spiritual human beings, well, however you want to define spiritual, that before we even came into the world and were raised in our families, before we were even in the womb even, we had a purpose. So young people are really connected to their inner purpose. They know what their inner values are. However, the system that we grew up in is not really conducive to bring that out. So the journey is understanding what our intuition is before all of these experiences. However, we have to go through those experiences again, almost like to relive them for us to understand those. The four main bodies, your mental, your physical, your spiritual, and your emotional, are ways that we can start now the journey of going back to increasing the volume of our intuition, because that's really important. So as I mentioned before, we are influenced by our experiences before the age of 7. That means that 85 to 95% of who you are is in your subconscious. It's your programming, everything that you're exposed to before the age of 7. And then 5 to 15% is what's in your conscious mind, what you really want moving forward. So the journey is about revealing what's in your subconscious by saying, okay, where am I mentally? Where am I physically? Where am I spiritually? Where am I emotionally? What does that mean for me? And define those with as much clarity as you can, because the more you define those things, the better able you are to see where the blocks are that are not leading you to where you want to be, either in achieving your dreams, your goals, and everything like that. So those can be like 4 main touch points that you can sit down with and say, okay, what is going on? Why am I not reaching my goals? Or how can I create programs and courses and products that people can actually buy into? Because people don't buy what you're selling. They're literally buying into you and who you are. So the more vulnerable you are, the easier it is for people, human to human, to connect with you. And one of the things I've realized for myself is that it's much harder to be vulnerable with your own self than with other people. So for me, it's easy for me to talk about my abuse now without, sort of wanting to cry again or get emotional, because I've gone through that. And having gone through that, it's so difficult sometimes to see all the stuff that you have done replicating what other people have shown you as the right way when it wasn't. And so it's almost like facing yourself in the mirror. So my journey it's been difficult to be vulnerable with my own self. But once you go through that, by using those 4 bodies, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, it makes it so much easier to relate to other people because you're so open. You don't know what other people are going through. Right, let's see. All right, so just to add on to the story I was talking about, let's talk about values. A little bit. So my inner child felt abundant from a young age, not because the adults around her were bad. My mother couldn't afford to look after me, so she sent me to someone else who could look after me. And so my journey, or the values that have been steeped in my subconscious, have been values of, I really want to be accepted. I really want to belong. Why is that when I'm trying to just be myself, people abuse me, they don't look after me, they don't accept me for who I am. I have to be this other thing that is not who I am. I have to put on this shell or face to be this proper, perfect child. But It's not who I am, literally. And so my subconscious values, so remember, subconscious is 85 to 95%, have been to be accepted, to belong. And then the inner critic that developed was for me to be a perfect, quiet child, introvert. And then my inner ego was my inner struggle. But my intuition kept telling me there's so much more to life than this. Why can't I figure it out? And so I found myself going round and round in different workspaces, just working like a dog, literally, and still not being accepted and still not belonging. And I even became more quiet, more introverted, and became very frustrated. And also because I had all of these big dreams of creating wealth in many different forms, financial wealth, work wealth, wealth in many different realms, and, channeling all my wisdom and my well-being into a way where I can serve more people. I became so frustrated because I was procrastinating a lot, because I was so confused with the inner turmoil that was inside of me. So those are the problems that come if we are not aware of distinguishing between the inner critic, the inner ego, the inner child, and also our intuition. So again, just chasing my own tail throughout my life, trying to rectify it by buying into a lot of coaching programs and courses and sales and marketing advice, but still getting frustrated because the energy of the turmoil inside of me was reverberating outside. So as much as I was quiet, this internal turmoil, the energy was just going out. And for those who are very spiritually acclaimed, you know how our vibration speaks a lot more than actually what is coming out of our mouth. So the more I worked on myself and that struggle, the easier it was for me to allow it, to let it go and not put my attention on there, but to increase the volume of my intuition. So this is what I did. And I'm sharing this because hopefully that's a journey that you can also take to start distinguishing and increasing the volume of your intuition, which is really who you are. So I sat down with my inner child. I literally sat down and started reliving or remembering, because sometimes we don't remember all the things that we've gone through, what my journey was in the first 7 years of my life. I asked questions around with people in my family. I went to therapy. I had a psychotherapist. I went through body work to release any tension in my physical body. I explored any triggers, emotional triggers that I had. And it's an ongoing journey, right? Because we don't remember everything in our first 7 years of life. I explored my beliefs. So I grew up as a Christian, but in those days, the people who were teaching me Christianity were making me feel bad. They saw me as a sinner. And so the way that I understood God was this big white man in the clouds somewhere who was always looking at me to say, you make sure that you behave, because if you don't behave, you're going to go to hell and burn for life. That's literally how my Christian world was. And so I had to come back to that and say, but wait a minute, that's not true. And I studied Buddhism. I studied a bit of Muslim culture. I'm in Bali now, so I've access to all of these religions, and being able to really understand and appreciate that there's a common thread across all religions, regardless of who you worship. And the common thread is that do the right thing, which we all know. Don't hurt yourself and don't hurt the next person. That was a common thread that I found across that. And so I started walking the journey back to say, how have my beliefs, how have those influenced who I have become? What works, what doesn't, and which journey am I going to go through? And that expanded my mental and intellectual abilities. Remember, we talked about how emotional intelligence is the result of self-awareness, and self-awareness is the result of self-inquiry, and self-inquiry is the result of questioning every single thing about you. Why is that important for you as a coach? It's important because the more you can niche down not only on the people that you serve, but your marketing, the easier it is for you to serve and be present for as many people as is possible. This is some of the external work that I've done. So I did psychology because I really wanted to understand people's psyche. Why would the very same adults who say that they loved me treated me in a way that hurt me? I really wanted to understand people's psyche, and psychology seemed to have the answers at that time. I studied anthropology because I was interested in people and culture, because culture influences how we behave. Culture is an accumulation of our value system. So values are the building blocks of culture. I wanted to understand, so I studied metaphysics. I wanted to understand what was this thing that we called spiritual. What is this thing that we call God or the Buddha in you? What is that, right? I studied conscious business ethics because the environments that I was exposed to growing up in my early working field, there was a top-down hierarchical way of leadership where there was bossness as opposed to leadership. And I know as coaches, we're helping a lot in the work environments at the moment. And it's important to understand how we can actually help those people who are leading other people from a top-down, I know everything kind of boss way, and how that's influencing the environment that they're creating, and how that's influencing performance, impact, and their return on investment. So the more we are aware of this, the better. So I went out to say, surely there must be a better way of leading other people that serves everyone. So I studied conscious business ethics. I was interested in body work and how our body absorbs all of this trauma. So I studied yoga, counseling, everything else, and so on. This is just experiences I've had that I bring to what I do when I'm coaching. This goes back to that example I gave of what my marketing coach told me around, look at all the work you've done and bring that into your coaching, because it can actually serve even more people. So with all of that, I then sat with myself and said, okay, who am I really? What do I want to do? Who do I want to serve? Why? Why me? What's important about me, right? And I realized that in all of that, I really love to write. I write, I journal every single day. I do not go anywhere without my journal. I love speaking, as you can tell. I love facilitating. I love conducting research. I know what my purpose is because I went down to my intuition so I could really connect with my inner child, right? So I could really understand what my intuition was before I became the personality that I have been. And then I aligned that to say, I know that knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. It's when you take what you've learned and put it into action that is positive, that knowledge becomes power. So that's how I started alchemizing everything, all my experiences, all I've learned, into my unique flavor, into my potency, because I've got something to say, I've got something to share. And there are people who've also gone through those experiences who need someone to hold their hand. So the more I'm vulnerable to other people, the more they can see that they come to me if they went through that same process. So with all of that, with all this multi-passionate and multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary experience, I then said, okay, how do I turn all of this knowledge into action? What makes sense for me? How do I operate moving forward? So I created what are called the operational values. The operational values are a bridge between the values I found out in my subconscious to the values I know that I want in my consciousness. So my values, remember, in my subconscious were acceptance, belonging, because I felt like I did not belong and accepted in my early childhood. And my conscious values are wealth, wisdom, well-being. But I could not get there as yet because I hadn't done the internal work. So I created a bridging gap between the two. And those bridging values are, I call them my she values. I noticed that the way I learn is when people simplify things as much as possible. As much as I might have all of these accolades, I can't speak about neuroscience-based coaching to other people who are not in the same realm, who don't understand that. So I have to break it down so they could understand that neuroscience-based coaching is literally just harnessing your mind and brain for higher performance. And I'm going to show you how to do that because your brain is literally in your own head. And the words or the thoughts or your mind is made out of the thoughts and the words that you're exposed to growing up. So we need to do a self-inquiry about the words that you use when you're speaking, because those words actually have influence on how you would behave. So I found that if I simplify things for myself and for other people, we're able to move forward faster. If I am honest, the H, and authentic and transparent, then people start trusting, because we trust people who are just honest and transparent with us. Now, the difference between honesty and transparency is with transparency, it's literally putting all your cards on the table. With honesty, I might just maybe put a few of my cards on the table, and then maybe you'll call me out later and I'll be like, oh no, maybe I forgot to give you this information. I'm still being honest, but I haven't been transparent because I did not put all my cards on the table. So if we simplify things and we are honest, authentic, and transparent with each other, we become the E, which is efficient and effective. And that helped me create that bridging gap. So your journey as coaches is understanding your subconscious values, which actually influence 85 to 95% of what you do and how you behave. And then if you're unaware of your conscious values, or even if you're aware of them, finding the bridging gap between the two to help you start walking that journey. So with all of that as well, the last questions that I had were, what sort of coach, teacher do I want to be? There are three main coaches, teachers, mentors that I came across. Motivational, inspirational, transformational. Motivational, it mostly speaks to your mental body. Remember, we talked about the 4 bodies: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. Motivational usually speaks to intellectual. And it's a person who needs a lot of constant external motivation. So instead, for me, for example, if I'm a churchgoer, instead of going to church just on Sunday to be motivated just on Sunday, and then I'm not doing Christian things Monday to Saturday, then that's an example of motivational. I would need the pastor or the priest in my home, in my space every single day so I can stay on word. So it's very short-lived unless the motivational is internal for that person. I don't want to be that person. Inspirational, it speaks to just the spiritual body and partially the emotional body. So inspirational, inspire, in spirit, you are touching a bit of their intuition. There's something that draws them to you. But again, it's not serving all the 4 bodies. Transformational speaks to all 4 bodies. So I am a transformational coach and I speak to all the 4 bodies. It allows us to help us to go back and say, okay, I want to understand who I am at physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And once I understand that, I'm able to actually see what my irresistible edge is. So everything that I've shared with you, if you're wanting to be a higher level coach, mentor, teacher, it's about how do I become transformational myself first so I can be transformational to other people. As a transformational person, you also touch on motivational and inspirational. It's all encompassed in all of that. So it does not mean that you're not also motivational and inspirational. It just touches on all 4 parts of your body. So I'm going to take a breather here before we speak about architecting your business on solid ground, because I know I've shared a lot of information. Is there something that I need to repeat before we move on? I've got another probably 10 to 15 minutes of presentation before we actually go into the full Q&A. So I'm not going to answer big questions, but is there something that you're not understanding now that I can speak to at the moment?
Barbara, there has been a request for you to please slow down. And also there was an inquiry from Julia for you to revert back to the slide about different inner child /ego /critique /intuition.
Okay, was that this one?
Julia, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, no, it was the one that had a very nice little definitions of the role of the inner child and and I was just in the middle of writing it down when you changed slides.
Is that this one, Julia?
That's the one.
Okay. And let me know when you've finished writing that down. You can also take a screenshot if that helps. And yes, thanks, Dawn. I will start slowing down. My apologies, I wasn't looking at the comments. Please do put I think if you put your hand up, I might be able to see the hand up. I don't know. I'm not looking at the comments at the moment, but I definitely will speak slower. Thank you for that. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to go back where we were. So just another 10 minutes, and then we can go into even more questions around that. And I will work at looking at the comment section a bit better. Please be patient with me. All right. So now that I know who I am, that's not an end journey, as we all know, because we're always growing, we're always exposed to different things. I really wanted to make sure that the business that I was creating was able to support me, because I had been sort of going on these marketing journeys of really understanding how other people were doing well, how other people were able to create funnels and be able to what looked like just churn out information every single day. And I'm not that kind of person. I love to sort of take a deep dive, take a few days off, sometimes weeks off, where I'm just learning and doing research, and then create from that perspective. So I really wanted to find a way of saying, who am I? What do I love to do? And what do I want to do? So I want to be a transformational coach. And who I am is this person who's really in tune with her intuition. I really love to write. I really love to speak. I really love to facilitate workshop. I really love to do research. And I've actually published work in scientifically edited journals, because that's just who I am. I love working with different types of people. So I wanted to find platforms that resonated with me, not platforms that other people said worked for them, because we're different personalities. And I tried those platforms and they didn't work for me. I just felt again like I was on this hamster wheel of trying different things that were not suited to my personality. So recently, I started moving away from MailChimp and went into ConvertKit. I had a newsletter and I used to be on MailChimp, but I couldn't figure out MailChimp. There were so many things that I couldn't understand. And remember my bridging values: simple, honest, efficient. MailChimp for me was not simple for me. But when I came across ConvertKit, which is now just called Kit, I was able to create newsletters that I could put in draft form. If I just had an idea, I'll just create a draft form, put it up on ConvertKit. And then on the day that I would send them out, which is every Sunday or every Monday, I would then just press send, or I can actually sort of put a timer for it to send automatically. The reason why I also like ConvertKit is I've created a number of ebooks, and I could actually put those ebooks on ConvertKit in my sales page, so people can always go to that link if they feel like they want to buy from that. I can create programs on there. So in fact, the program that I will share with you right at the end of this is created on ConvertKit, where I could put landing pages, sales pages, email sequences. So you know how when people sort of come into your newsletter and you want to introduce yourself, and maybe you want to create a free journey for them to understand a process that you're going through. And I was able to create those email sequences where each day they would get an email educating them on something without me actually being visible all the time. And so even on ConvertKit, what I found was you could actually recommend other creators, because my personality developed into introvertedness before I actually did the work that I did. So I literally did not want to be out there speaking to people. I just wanted to be in my shell by myself. But you can connect with other creators who see your platform, who then recommend people from their own newsletters to say, hey, you might enjoy this. And then I can do the same without actual face-to-face interaction. So that worked for me. So the information from those newsletters, because I love to write, it's an easy thing for me. I literally churn out newsletters every week. I'm able to shorten it into my LinkedIn personal page and my LinkedIn business page, and I'm able to post a couple of times a week. I use Buffer because I can schedule in advance for my main socials. I can put hashtags in my Buffer. They also suggest on Buffer the hashtags that you can use. They're able to, and Buffer is actually linked to unsplash.com, where they send you images that you can choose for free on what you want to put on your post. So this was also easy for me because I just needed things to be simplified. I use Google Sheets because it's easy to onboard people in my coaching programs. I use Calendly for online appointments, Google Meet, Zoom for online meetings. I use Teachable and Thinkific platforms for all my courses, They're very simple ways of just uploading my content. So I obviously put my content on a Word document and then post it as a course in those platforms. So I chose those platforms because they linked with who I was becoming, and they were very easy to work with. When I speak about community, I started engaging with schools that were looking to bring in interns or attachment students, because when I started my coaching journey, I did not have the funds to run it as a proper business. And so I could not hire other people. So there were schools out there, and they're still there, where you can actually partner with them, and they bring on students to help you as attachment students, or as people who are also wanting to learn, that you can teach as you go along. And they, for example, when I have a podcast interview, are able to create short clips that I can then share. So understanding my journey, who I am, what I want to bring out, and then marrying that to make sure that I create a business that is solid, where I don't feel like I'm running out of steam. I am able to then move forward ahead authentically because I know who I am, and that's solid ground. And so moving forward with that as well, when you look at my website, it speaks to who I am. So I am all about designing your life. It's all about designing your life. You are the manager and the director of your own life. So literally my website is called designyourlifefoundation.com. A solid ground, a solid foundation. Let's design your life, right? My email, easy to understand, designyourlifefoundation@gmail.com. I'm sharing this because I hope that you can see how when we do the work and understand who we are, we actually then start to choose how we create this architecture of our business. So my name of my business and my website resonates with who I am, what I do, what I love. I use WordPress.com because it's easy for me. I literally run my own website. The brand colors speak to what I love. Deep reds. I'm an earthy person. I'm from Africa, Zimbabwe. We're very connected to nature, and that just speaks to me. My media page explores everything. If you go on my media page, you'll see all the interviews that I've done, all the workshops, all the speaking engagements. Again, speaking to what I love, who I am, and what I want to do. So I created that focus as I was moving through life. So a disclaimer with everything that I've told you today, you do not have to do the work. You don't, because all of the experiences you had up until now, there is still someone who is still looking up to you and is still wanting to engage with you. So you do not have to do all of this. You don't, and you still do absolutely well. Why do I think it's important to do the work? Because the more you work on you, the wider your reach. Like, it's really important for good people in this profession who are coaches and mentors and teachers to reach even more people, especially in this time in our world where everything seems to be crumbling down. And so the more connected we are at human levels to ourselves, the more we can connect to even more people. So it stops about just niching down to just your target market. Obviously, yes, we need to start there to create that foundation, but your messaging now speaks to the emotional, the physical, the spiritual aspect, the mental aspect of people around the world. And since COVID, people are so open to understand who they are at all of these bodies, who they are at spiritual level, at emotional level. Because COVID, for me, I laugh about it, but I know it was also a funny, not a funny experience, but a really tragic experience. Why I laugh about it is, in my head, I see it as the world was naughty, right? Everything was falling apart, and God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, the Buddha in you was like, okay, I'm going to send the whole world to your naughty corner so you can figure this S out because things are not going okay. Let's now come and just really understand what works, really connect to who you are and what you want in this world. So it gave us that opportunity to put a pause button. And I'm not celebrating all the tragic things that happened around that. I did not want any of that to happen. The opportunity is, what can we do moving forward with this? And as you might be able to see, the market of coaching is getting quickly saturated. And so your unique flavor, your potency makes you stand out. The more you do the inner work, the more potent you are, because you yourself are very clear on who you are. You get to what I call the 3 Ds: define, design, and display the work that you do. You get to define the first D with as much clarity as you can, who you are, what you want to do, what makes you tick. The second D, you get to design roadmaps, strategies, whether they're business strategies or life strategies or leadership strategies, that help you actually make sure that what you have defined with clarity is able to stay on track, right? You're designing your life, you're designing your leadership, you're designing your business, you're designing your consultancy, you're designing your coaching around that. The D is that you cultivate, the last D, you cultivate or you display the habits and behaviors that are attached or support what you have defined and what you have designed. So every day you're literally rewiring your brain by engaging with those activities that help you stay on track. So you're actually helping people beyond their titles or their roles. You are helping them at human level. How do I know this works? I've never worked with medical doctors until this was my first medical doctor. She was a dentist, and her review was amazing. And it just showed me the importance of doing this work. It had no reference to whether I myself was a doctor or not. I am not. But the work that we did together superseded her dental education. Can you imagine how powerful that is? That people are identifying themselves by their titles because that's how we've been taught in our first 7 years of life. You're a boy, so wear blue. You're a girl, so wear pink. You're not supposed to wear this. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. You're a black person, so you don't fit. You can't speak to other white people or other people of other races. You're a person from Africa, so you can't, be any other religion beside Christianity. Why did you start Buddhism? That's not an African thing. Like, so many things that we're told to do or not to do just because of the boxes, the limited boxes that society has given us. So when I talk about niching down, not only yes on your target market, but also human to human, you're able to expand on the people that you serve. And that's all I've got to share today. If any of this resonates, I have a 3-day paid workshop that's coming up on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the last 3 days of April. Actually, April finishes on the 30th, right? Not the 31st. I think I might have gotten that wrong. But it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll double check the dates. And it's 9 to 10:30. We are going to go through those 3 things: help you define, help you design, help you display. We're going to understand the 4 bodies, the 4 voices even more, so you can understand yourself even more. And Elena, I think, I didn't, let me see if I can give you I'll put the links in the chats after I finish, just on the last slide. And on the last slide, again, just a repetition of that workshop where we go through those 3 things. And the link will take you right to the payment button. I used ConvertKit to create this landing page and just to create the funnels and everything around this. So you can also see how that works from your end when you sign up and pay. And you can also sample. If you're not ready to go on this 3-day journey, you're able to sample what I now call the Mutedzi 3D protocol. Mutedzi, because of all the intellectual knowledge that I bring in, the 3D process, define, design, display, through a 3-day complimentary journey where, through ConvertKit again, you receive emails every 7 days. They are audio recorded, which ConvertKit allows you to do, because I love to speak, so that as you're going about your business, you can actually listen to the recordings. So that's my last slide. And what I'll do as I end the slide is I'm just going to quickly put the links in the chat. Just give me a second. So just copy and So the first link will take you straight to the payment button for those 3 days. And then the second one is for you to sample the complimentary 7-day process. And whilst I am on that, I am going to double check on the dates. See, at 44 years old, I should know that April finishes on the 30th.
Yes, it finishes on the 30th. I just checked, Barbara. For
Thank you. So
aware,
sorry, go ahead.
We are going to also include a copy of the links with the video presentation that shall be sent to everybody in the next 3 to 5 business days.
Perfect. That's it from me. Let's go into the Q&A.
Is we just ask questions, or how does it work? Yes, you mentioned in the beginning that you're using a personal test, or is it just did I hear it wrong? So in the beginning, what kind of persons we are, what made us, and to really dive deep. So are you using a method, or I don't know, some people do. So how are you doing it?
So one of the things that I do is use personality tests as a door opener, as sort of, let me understand who you are on the surface, because our personality is who we are on the surface, who we have become from the programming that we've had in the first 7 years of our life. So my favorite personality test is the Myers-Briggs personality test. I don't know if you've heard of that. And what I'll do...
Myers-Briggs? Can you type it in the chat?
Yes.
That we have it.
Myers-Briggs personality test. And if you type that into Google, it's a free test that anyone can take. And it helps you really understand who you are, whether you're more introvertedness, whether you're more extrovertedness. So that's one of the things that I use. And the other methods that I use, because I'm a neuroscience-based coach, is I have techniques that I've learned as a neuroscience-based coach on, I am observing people's behavior. Just by watching you as you're speaking, I'm understanding what you're saying without you actually saying it, because I'm trained that way. Then I am asking you, oh, you said this, but your body is saying that. Can you tell me what's inside? Because sometimes we have to present a front, right? But there's so much more happening underneath. I am also, for example, observing the words that you are using, because your words say a lot about who you are as a person, and what your understanding of those words are. I am doing tests like, for example, one of the things, oh, thanks, Lynn. Lynn has actually put, Isabel, she has put a link, an actual link to the 16 personalities. Thank you, Lynn. And so one of the other things I do is I ask people to write down the obituary, which is, I don't know if you know what obituary is. It's when you die and someone stands up and talks at your funeral about the person that you are. So then I say, I want you to write that about your own self. If you were to die today and you were to be honest, because people lie at funerals, if we're to be honest with each other, they don't tell the full truth.
Yes.
So write your own obituary and say, if I'm to die today, this is who I have been in the last 4 decades of my life. So for me, it's been 4 decades. Is that who I would have really liked to become? If the answer is no, okay, so who do I want to become? I want to become this person. Okay, so what do I need to start doing every day? So what you've done is the person you are today is a culmination of your subconscious values, those 85 to 95% of who you are, your programming before the age of 7. Who you want to be is also a little bit of your actual values, your intuitive values. And the journey of saying, this is who I've been, but I really want to be this person. How do I walk this journey so that I start creating a life to be this person? Are your bridging values. So what values do I need to define for myself that will help me come here? What do I need? So this person here, this part here is you need to define with as much clarity as possible who this person is. right? And then you need to design the roadmap that will help you get to here. And whilst you're designing this roadmap, you need to understand and display and cultivate the everyday habits, behaviors, thought patterns that will help you become this person. So that's how you can use the 3Ds, the define, design, display. And that's how you can use your values, your understanding and revealing your subconscious values, finding your bridging values, and starting to bring clarity to your actual values. And we'll delve more into that in the 3-day workshop.
I missed it. Sorry, I had to leave for a bit of time. Okay.
The 3-day workshop is coming at the end of April, and we'll send you more details when Elena sends the presentation in the next week or so.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. And as we're waiting for the next question, just lift up your hand, let me know. I love where everyone is. Lynn is from Nairobi, Annabelle, UK. I'm in Bali, Indonesia. Tato, South Africa. Amazing. Where is everyone else from? I really love how we are also connected from different parts of the world. We are representing, right? Europe, Africa, Asia. Amazing, amazing.
Armenia.
Europe, Natalie. Hamburg, Germany.
Armenia. I'm Armenian. I'm living in Lebanon, but Armenia, Lebanon.
I love that. Thanks, Natalie. Isabel is from Hamburg, Germany. Julia is in London, Ireland. Kim, beautiful. Love it. France, Emily, yay. Beautiful, beautiful. Any other questions? Did anything resonate with you that you want more clarity on? I see, Elena, you've got your hand up. You can go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask you a last-minute question, if I may, which I will try to ask as clearly as possible. You talk a lot about the programming that each one of us receives during the course of our initial 7 years. How about the programming we have received in previous lifetimes?
That's very clear. That's absolutely clear. And the way I understand it from my perspective is that the programming that we have, the adults around us, so we have learned, so young people, children learn not only by being told what to do, but by watching and observing facial expressions, the way you walk, how you carry yourself, how you're interacting, how you're speaking to so-and-so. And that's generational, right? Because the adults around us also learned that from previous lives, from their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on. And so whatever happened in our lineage is literally being passed through our own lives, through the people who are raising us. So in doing the work of that inner work, you're not only, if you're up to the challenge, solving the challenges or the narratives that do not serve you as an individual and who you are, but you're closing the door on old narratives that other people have had to carry, either with them consciously knowing or subconsciously not knowing. Like literally the way you walk is because of everything you've carried throughout your life. So it absolutely resonates when people do shadow work and child work and inner child work and spirit-led work and, understanding our lineage and going, everything is all linked. So we are the result, yes, of who we are and all the accolades we've accumulated in our lifetime and everything that we've been exposed to. We are also an accumulation of the energy of the people around us. Every single thing is energy. So everything passes down from lineage to lineage, from what you eat, everything, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, our bodies are still in the hunter-gatherer phase. Yet the outside world is developing at such a rapid pace that a lot of the times we feel lost and we feel dejected and confused because we are carrying so much from past generations that we ourselves even don't understand. So the more we take that step of understanding ourselves and understanding where we're from and where we belong, the easier it is for us to then take what works in this modern world, thank and appreciate what doesn't work anymore, because there has been some service with that. So we have to appreciate that as well, but make sure that as we move forward genuinely and authentically, and at a space where we are of service to other people, we are bringing in the things that help fuel not only ourselves, but humanity and our own children and grandchildren moving forward.
Thank you very much for responding, Barbara.
What's your take on that, Elena?
It strongly resonates with me. The reason I asked this question is because lately I've been hearing a lot about people not really recognizing that us lives, of course, if you believe in that, right, are influencing us. I personally have a very strong position on that, and I was very curious to hear your perspective. So thank you once more.
Perfect. We are now top of the hour, and I'm aware that we scheduled this for an hour. I would love to respect people's time. Please, if you have any questions, my email address is so easy: designyourlifefoundation as one word @gmail.com. Please reach out. I check my email every day. And yeah, if you need any more information, I'm here to be of service to you in any way that you need.
Barbara, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's been truly inspirational and eye-opening. We appreciate your time very much. We appreciate the time of all of the participants. Thank you so much for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you for the future IAPC&M Masterclasses, and enjoy the rest of your days.